Hello, everybody. Let me introduce our next speaker. Yeah, I think everybody know Fastify and Pino, and of course, after all of these recent packages is Matteo Collina. Matteo Collina is known as Node.js Technical Street Committee member and contributor to Node.js. Also, he is a co-founder and CTO of Platformatic.dev. Matteo will share his knowledge in talk generating types without climbing a tree. So, watching.
Hi everyone, I'm Matteo Collina, Platformatic co-founder and CTO. And today I am coming online to talk about something, that you like, generating types, or maybe not. I don't know. Have you ever generated types? I think so. Anyway, this is my topic for today. So, but before we start with that, I need to tell you a little bit of me and my story because it matters for the talk. So, first of all, how many ropes do you need to climb a tree? Now, remember this question, and we'll go back to it at the end. So, first of all, a little bit about me. I am vice chair of the Node.js Technical Steering Committee of Node.js, board member of the OpenJS Foundation, 8 years and a half as a consultant focused on Node, and created Fastify and Pino. Also, I write every week, more or less, at nodeland.dev, and you can see it and you can get it anyway. So cool. Yeah, some of the stuff that I created is Fastify, is a web framework for Node that you should probably be using. If you're not, check it out. You're very useful for building APIs. Anyway, I also wrote a lot of other modules, and more or less last year, 2021, I got, 17 billion downloads per year. And these years probably will be at like 22 billions. It's a lot of downloads, okay? So if you really like them, I also have a GitHub sponsor page. So please, for every download you make from me, just put a 1 cent there. I would love it, okay? Even a millicent, I would love it, okay? Sorry, I'm joking, of course. Okay, so what's going on here? Well, I have a confession to make. After writing all those modules, I never used TypeScript, almost never used TypeScript, at least not before 2022. And what happened in 2022? Well, look, I actually started a company, and a developer tools company, and I had to face TypeScript. And what problems did we solve? Well, we wanted to solve the problem of building APIs and improving how teams build API. And part of the problem of building APIs is it's a two-side problem. You have your backend engineer and your front-end engineer, and they are there, and they are connected by the API, right? So the backend engineer produces the API, and the front-end engineer consume it. Typically, one writes the server, the other one needs to write a client for that API. So, but why that's a problem? Well, it's a big issue because it's a lot of duplicated work, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. So, the company I founded is called Platformatic.dev, and you can check us out. And I don't want to spend too much. We'll probably do a little bit of demo at the end. What do we want to do? Well, we want to help you move very fast from A to B, like you are on a very high-speed train. But then, because you need to reach C, which is your custom app and so on and so forth, we actually want to have the same flexibility of a very, very nice electric SUV. So, look, check it out. What we are focusing on this presentation is coding on the client and coding the client. This is actually very important to note because it's a very repetitive problem, okay? What do you do? Well, I spent few hours to write a new client for an app, for an API. That money is absolutely wasted. So how can we avoid that waste and we make, have less code to maintain? Well, what is the better flow? The developer, code the API. They don't need to write docs. They don't need to write whatever, and the front-end engineer or the other microservice on the consumer engineer anyway, just generate the client. It's way simpler, right? There's way less things to build and maintain. So a lot of you will say, but there are a lot of things out there. And one of those is TRPC. And you probably have seen a lot of TRPC out there and showed, demoed how amazing it is, how type safe it is from backend and front end. It's fantastic. Yes, it is. However, it introduces tight coupling between the client and the server, which it's okay if you are working solo, but if the two things are maintained by two different teams, this is actually a big issue. So, and all of that, even the creator of TRPC amazing say all of that. So anyway, this is great, but type coupling, TS REST more or less does the same. Okay, so it still introduces tight coupling between one and the other. Okay, it has some benefits over TRPC. It also has some problems, but it's another alternative if you are working solo or in a very tiny team. But if you're working across various teams, other people are consuming your APIs and so on and so forth, you might want to do something different. Well, what do we do then? Well, the nice thing is that tight coupling lead to a monolith that's very hard to break down. Like the problem with monoliths is they're very hard to maintain long term. So what do we do with the monoliths? Okay, well, how can we avoid this problem? How can we keep the separation between front end and back end a little bit? And more importantly, how we can create an amazing developer experience without the tight coupling between client and server? Look, this is the big question, because I want a client and a server that are not tightly coupled, that are not connected together so much, but I still want an amazing developer experience. Ooh, what do we do? Well, note of color, 80% of developers prefer REST to GraphQL. I don't know why. This is the status. I've asked this question multiple times. It's an unofficial benchmark, an unofficial survey. I should probably run a better survey at some point. But look, this is very important anyway. So I think it's a good number to know. Sorry about this. And what do we do? Well, the question now is, how can we automatically generate a client for our REST APIs? And also, the generated code should be minimal and simple. We don't want massive dependencies in, right? Because massive dependencies are actually a lot of work. Now, one of the greatest bits is that you can have OpenAPI as a way to standard way to define RESTs endpoints, which seems, I don't know, good enough for most cases. So it's a standard, is fixed, and I can have my server generate it. Okay, so I can generate this automatically. Good, perfect. But, how about the consumer? How can we consume this on the front end? Well, I had a few requirements here. First, I want the routes to be defined via OpenAPI, because mostly I get them for free using Fastify. I wanted something that does not do any data validation at runtime. I did not want to waste any time on the client with the response. Why is that? Well, first of all, if I am running a validator on the client, I am actually shipping a validator, so I have load time, which, a few kilobytes, yeah, probably matter. Also, I am actually executing some work on the client before rendering, and so I'm still losing a little bit of reactivity and so on and so forth. So, however, I can see that at some point we will add something here, because it's there is quite a few cases the front end team does not trust the back end team, and vice versa. So people might really want to do that kind of testing, and we just wanted to use fetch. Okay, so I started investigating how to generate those things. Okay, and while my investigations were going on, I started with a very simple function and adding two numbers, and I started looking at how to use the TypeScript compiler API. And now I can't understand this. Okay, like if you look at on the right side, there is look, I can probably need to move myself. Here we go. And so let's look at the right side. You can see that we create an identifier, we create another identifier, and another third identifiers, and then we create a function declaration with all of those things. It's a lot, okay? Now you can read it, but it's complex, right? And then we go and print the output. Okay. Can we do something better than this? Well, these are two problems for me. And the first one is this is completely disconnected from the code that we were using to do before, right? It also uses a lot of lines to generate tree. And this seems very a gigantic tree to climb. And I really didn't want to climb any trees for this because I was in a rush and I had no time and so on. And then somebody introduced me to this nice library called a code block writer, which is a very nice library. It's super tiny. It just don't do any validation, any check, and there's no safety whatsoever in using this library in my code, in the code, right? But what is the trade-off for this? Okay. Well, the trade-off is that it's homomorphic, okay? It maintains the relationship between the various parts of our generated code. So if you look at the function add, you can see that here it's actually very readable that that's the function add. Whereas in the previous example, it was not readable at all. That was a single function add. It was very complex. So I actually very much prefer this because it's actually way easier to spot problems and see the code that's going to be generated. Because I see, oh, this is a function add. It's a block. It's a function add with a block. Yeah, I can live with that. Okay, it's something that I can understand. So, and they thought this is my approach. I'm going to use this. I'm not going to use the other API. And this was literally like the lazy options. So what does generating a client do? Well, we take the OpenAPI definitions that you can see on the left, okay? And you can see that we have the definition on the left, and then we have, we have the definition of the left, and we map each path. You see the paths, okay, with an operation ID to a single method. It's great. And also, we take the parameters and responses and map that to things too. Whoa. And it has... So when you create this thing, you if you go back in the paths, you can see that we have used the operation ID. Operation ID is optional in OpenAPI, and therefore, if there is not, we invent one for you. So please specify yours. And we in this definition we split the types. So there is the types and the code. So because we might want it to generate JavaScript instead of TypeScript. So but you still want to use the types. So we split them in two files to begin with. Okay. Which is great. So this is now the time for the demo gods. Now the demo god needs to be with me. So let's give it a shot. Okay. So first of all, let's create a new. Oh yeah, demo. It's going great. We'll see demo. Okay. Now we can just do create platformatic. Okay. And create platformatic creates my platformatic thing. I create a platformatic DB because I just want to create a thing. Oh, okay. Amazing. Okay, sorry about this. And I create my platformatic DB. I call it demo. I use SQLite. I am going to say yes, yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, and yes, and yes. Let's use TypeScript. No and no. Okay, this is going to install npm and do all our things. Okay, what has this created for us? Well, a few little things here and there. It's it's demo. Okay, and here clear. And it has created an API for us very quickly from a SQL database, and it's installing stuff. Our database is actually very simple. It's just a very simple movies table. So here we go. It has installed everything, then it has applied the migration and generated the types. Great. Okay. So what do we do now? Well, now we can do cd demo, and here we go. Then we could do npm start, and this starts our project. And first it compiles it and so on and so forth. And we actually have our platformatic DB. And you can see here it has a movies and so on and so forth API. We can do a bunch of stuff here. What we are interested for is this URL at the top. So platformatic client frontend language. Yes, and we need to copy this thing and paste it here. And now it has downloaded the file and generating a bunch of things for us, which we have the types file, which as I demoed before. And as you can see, there's a lot of them. And then I have my TypeScript thing, okay, in here. And now I can do nps tsc. Oh, yes, of course. So make dir src, and I need to move my API inside src. And so we run tsc, and this compiles. And now we have our, compile file, which is our common.js file with all the things. And what we can try is, for example, we can try to use this in somewhere else. So we could essentially do, why it's not, okay, yeah. So we are here, we can go inside and call it client test.ts, and we want to import my, for example, get movies from API, and then we can async function run. And here we want to get their movies, okay? So, and now we call it run. So now we can npx tsc, let's compile this, let's node dist and test. And ooh, it's failing. Why it's failing? Well, because we have not set our base URL. So we can call set base URL here, set base URL, and we can put 3042, and this is our base URL, and then recompile it and run again, and this is empty. Cool. So we can even create a movie now. So we have get movies, set base URL, create movie. So we could try to create a movie. Create movie, and we want to set the title test, and let's log the movie, and then let's log again the movies that we had before. Okay, it's compile, and then we can run it again, and you can see this is the same, and it's working as you would expect to, and you get all the client done for essentially for free for you. You can even do something very nice, because if you look at the definitions here, you can see there's a function build and with a URL. So it's actually an API that I prefer slightly, but if you're on the front end, you might prefer this generic one that you can just set a global. But I typically prefer to do build, and oh yeah, it's a default export, so you can just use build. And now you can say, for example, const client build and pass the URL and 3042. Okay. And now you could do client.getMovies, client.createMovie, and client.getMovies, which is an API that I prefer very much because I can specify my client, create multiple clients, each one with their own thing. And now I could do npx.tsc. Let's compile, let's test this up, and it's still working as expected. If I write again, I get another one, and so on and so forth. Pretty cool, right? So with this, I think my time's up, and hopefully the demo gods were with me, but it's actually very easy when you are recording. Anyway, so the question for the audience is: Did we climb that tree? Were we able to generate the types without too much effort? Yeah, I think so, but I leave it to you. Thank you very much for being with me today. We are Platformatic. Try our open source tool at docs.platformatic.dev. And, thank you for watching. Bye-bye. Yes. Hi, everybody. Hi, Nikita.
Hi, nice to meet you online. I hope someday meet you on some conference. Thank you for
Can't wait.
Yeah, thank you so much for this amazing demonstration. I have several questions to you. My first question, I see that you created amazing demo with code generation, and OpenAPI is pretty standard, and for me it's not clear why you make decision to use create new library instead of using what we have at open source right now.
This is a very interesting question. So first of all, a few different reasons. So first thing was most of the libraries that I saw did really not generate, like they were generating a huge amount of code and information and so on, and it was absolutely not minimal. Okay, so they tended to provide a more, I don't know, I'm going to use a bad term, but a more Java style API, okay, versus something that would be idiomatic for JavaScript and TypeScript. And that was essentially the first reason. The second one is I wanted something that had no dependencies. So something that just use fetch. So you can take that file and just use it wherever you want. Okay, so you don't need complex bundling. You don't need any complex setup. It just works out of the box. You use fetch, which is available everywhere. So, and which made a lot of sense in terms of consumption of that code. And yeah, I think those was the two main reasons. I think there's a third reason. So it's two reasons.
I see. Matteo, I have done a question. Actually, this code generation is create your internal SDK for the client for communicating, and you don't care about what you have inside this SDK. You will not open this file ever. You will just make import required method to create build, and you will do that. And maybe you made some research regarding performance in the browser for check that client with this generated tool will have bad performance because you adapt of optimization.
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
The question is regarding performance comparison between your library and what we have on the market. I typically use OpenAPI TypeScript code again for solving such question.
Sorry, I don't know what this library is, so I cannot give you an answer for that.
Okay,
sorry.
Then
or maybe I didn't understand the term. So if you can pass it or send me a link, I will be happy to comment. But I understood this. I see something like GAMB something. I don't know. I don't understand. I didn't understand the.
Okay. It's. Okay, and I have the last, let's then skip this question. I will ask the last question regarding the code generation. what you demonstrate during the demo. Typical question from developers is after converting our response from plain objects to class instances. It's very common in Angular. And we use some approach like class transformer for that. It's for Nest and Angular common practice. What do you think regarding this add-on to your library?
It depends. So it's everything is open source. So if there is a pull request or an issue open, we might think about it. Okay, I didn't even know this existed. To be honest, I'm not an Angular user, and I've not used Angular. I've never used the Angular in TypeScript. Okay, like my story with Angular ends with Angular 1, so I have never used it afterwards. So I don't have a clue. So I am sorry, but I don't have a. If you open an issue like that, it seems a feature that is, to be honest, is not hard. Should not be hard to add something like that. So
I see.
it might be possible.
It was list of questions to you as a speaker. I would like to continue my question list. This question to you as
Go for it.
Node.js contributor. We are talking regarding TypeScript here, and I would like to know your opinion regarding state of open source related to TypeScript and Node.js, because nowadays we see that a lot TypeScript features not well adapted by JavaScript ecosystem. And at your Node Lens, at the last episode, you shared amazing opinion regarding foundations. And what do you think regarding TypeScript and foundations, this direction? It's very broad question, but we want to know your opinion regarding this situation and how you think it should evolve to support the community.
Okay, so there is like if you build a tool or a language or a library that is fundamental for the industry, and if that's the case, typically there are more people. Like you're not contributing on it alone. Okay, there is a larger team working on it. There is a lot of people invested in the project and so on. Those things typically are a good way to put them is moving those projects inside a foundation. And the reason is that it protects those projects from the authors, okay, so that they cannot backtrack and make that project, closed source or change it in these kind of significant ways. So this is the point. It's really a foundation protects you from protects your users from you. Okay, you are relinquishing rights by moving a project in a foundation. You are not really gaining. Yeah, you are giving away more than what you are getting. Okay, which is cool. Like I think it's critical. So, and we are seeing a lot of projects in quite a few companies that are migrating to foundations and so on, mostly because to guarantee that the projects are shared by everybody. So that's it.
But what about Microsoft and TypeScript? Because if we will check
so this is like my take here is that TypeScript, like Microsoft, should really be doing something in this front. Okay, it's very odd that TypeScript is governed in the way it is governed, considering that every single developer uses it, and that it has ultimately more power than TC39 standardization body these days.
I see a point.
So I would prefer that the language to have an open governance with other companies involved, at least.
Yeah, but how to go to this direction, it's not clear for whole community, and it looks like you also don't
No, but
have.
not for me. Like, this is something that needs to, call Microsoft out on this, okay, and make sure that Microsoft is on board with this change, and that Microsoft leaders are willing to pursue this change. So ask them, okay?
Yeah, you're right.
Literally ask them, okay? I have no answer on this front. Is literally ask Microsoft to please consider doing that, and because it's such a fundamental language for the web that makes it's way harder. If it if it would become a rogue team, we will be in huge trouble as a community.
I see your point. I have the last question to you as CTO of the platformotic.dev, and I see that main point or main problem what you want to resolve with this platform is improve developer experience. It's pretty good goal, and um, can you share how you actually want to measure developer experience? Because it's something what typically calculated by surveys, but you focus it on tools, and it's not like opinion based. It's something what is according to your experience, built on your consulting. So how you think it should be measured for calculate money?
So this is a very interesting point. Okay, I am going to refer to research done by others, not me. Okay, so I'm not the expert here. I am a follower in this regard. Okay, there is recently Nicole Sullivan, I think, published. Let me get you the. Sorry, Nicole Forsgren, not Sullivan. Nicole Forsgren got published.
Sorry for interruption.
A paper.
Sorry for interruption. If you want, you can start screen sharing if you want to demonstrate something to the audience.
Oh no, I'm just I am just going to send a link, paste a link in the chat here. So I'm not going to demonstrating anything. I'm just literally, there are discussion here. So I'm not. It's a complex discussion. It's not a one-on-one. It's not a one-letter explanation. Okay. So I'm pasting a link. These include all the discussion about it and so on and so forth. And so it's actually, this is a description. It's a long form of the paper, so it's I think it's good. And
okay, cool. I will resend this link to our Discord chat, so community will see that. Okay,
amazing. Bye
cool.
bye.
Thank you. See you in voice chat. Join us.